We're back. We just come back from a nice little trip away to Kalmar, which is a city 300 kilometers northeast of Malmo. So a nice little road trip, 4 nights.
Yeah, it was great.
We saw some castles, the Kalmar Castle.
Kalmar Castle was so good. If you're ever in the area, definitely check out Kalmar Castle. One of the best castles I've seen in my travels, and I've seen lots of castles.
Yeah, it was super quiet. We had the castle to ourselves, and yeah, we really enjoyed it. It was a really nice sunny day as well. So yeah, we could really properly explore.
It was really good. Yeah.
Went as well on a random little self-safari in a moose farm.
Oh yeah, in the Saab safari to it wasn't really a farm, it was like it was kind of a compound, but it was quite big. It was like a moose nature reserve. That was so good.
But that was quite nice with our place. So yeah, no, we really enjoyed our time there. So night's time, what do I have?
Yeah.
Night's time to get back to work, unfortunately, and yeah, get some things
Get back
going.
into it, all right. Nice empty workshop. Beautiful sunny day. The weather has been amazing. It's Friday, so we got back yesterday from our little trip away to Kalmar. The TGB went in this morning to go in for its registration, which the name of what they call a registration here, I'll put on the screen, I can't pronounce it, starts with B. TGB drove really nice until it didn't. Died on the highway on the 110 zone at rush hour this morning because we needed to get it to parked up in a place called Trelleborg by 8 a.m. Yeah, and it died. So it was definitely fuel related, but it didn't seem to be that filter I'd replaced. I think what had happened was I basically just started squeezing hoses, rattling them and punching things because I knew if it wasn't that little filter and wasn't the filter in the engine bay, then it was maybe the fuel pump had died and wasn't feeding fuel in. But what I think it was, after smashing everything, it cleared itself up. I think I must have dislodged something in the tank because that's the biggest drive it's done. Like literally, I don't know in how many years and years and years, that's the longest, biggest drive it's done. And I got up to like 75k an hour. So I think it sucked something in, and then when I was squeezing the pipes and whacking things and stuff by the fuel tank, it must have dislodged it, and it enabled me to kind of limp it to the station. I didn't drive at 70k again after that. Ange was in front of me. The whole situation was a bit stressful because of it being rush hour. Now, that means with that saga kind of over as far as I can tell, if it passes today, the saga's over. New project. So one of the reasons I haven't opened this bad boy up here, the transmission, is this transmission in particular is really sensitive to contaminants like dust. So unfortunately upstairs hasn't been completed yet. I was hoping I could rebuild it upstairs where it would be a bit cleaner, but we can't. So all I can do is just mitigate things to the best of my ability. So we went to IKEA today, got some toys for Oaks and a sheet for me to be able to cover this. I'm going to open this up. I know that there'll be a lot of work to do on this thing. I don't have to rebuild it, but I don't know how many kilometers it's done. I've bought some bits and pieces for it and I've researched how to rebuild it. It looks like it's taking apart a jet engine. It looks complicated, but I'm going to give it a crack. And at the very worst case, I told Ange, if I break it, I'll fit the cost myself, not Ange, not our build budget. So yeah, I want to tackle this. I want to rebuild a highly technical automatic Mercedes gearbox. So let's pull it apart, and then I need to figure out a way to drain it. I don't have a stand, so I need to figure out some sort of really rummy way of getting this up high so I can drain all the fluid. It should be about 8 litres of automatic transmission fluid, and I've got some on the way through Autodoc for it. So yeah, let's set this up. Let's have a little look-see. Okay, I've been looking forward to this day for a long time. Well, the good news is there's a transmission in here. This is exciting, but I'm nervous. Seems pretty well packaged. Ta-da! Okay, so it's much smaller than I thought it was going to be. This is, if you can't recognize it, which I'm sure I wouldn't be able to recognize what it was, this is a 722.6 Mercedes automatic gearbox, electronic automatic gearbox, from a Mercedes ML class 4MATIC, so four-wheel drive diesel. Now, a lot went into this purchase, and a personal shout out to, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name, mate, but Jan Zimmer, thank you so much. He has done the conversion that I'm wanting to do. He's already done it. He's a smart guy, and he helped me a lot with exactly what transmission to buy, because there are so many. And when I was stuck, Mercedes pumped so many iterations of this out. For some of you in America, you will know this transmission as the NAG1, the NAG1. Now, in a slightly larger bell housing, this being the bell housing here, they made more 722.6s, but with different suffixes at the end, that could handle unbelievable amounts of torque, like upwards of like 500 to 1,000 Newton meters of torque. So they put these in all kinds of vehicles. Mercedes in particular put them in your, what do you call them, your AMGs. I'll actually put some of the cars up on the screen because I can't remember off the top of my head. And then of course you've got the NAG1, which is like basically Chrysler, I guess, bought the rights off Mercedes to use it, renamed it the NAG1. Really good gearbox. As far as I'm aware, the only weak point is this thing down here, which I'll talk to you more about later on. And it's all electronic. I'm going to pull that apart. I've got a rebuild kit for that. That's your basic rebuild. But I'm also going to have a look at all of the clutches in here as well, and then replace all the seals and replace whatever clutches need to be fixed, because I do not know what sort of vehicle this has come out of. I'll put some pictures up on the screen as well of kind of the process of buying this. It was an auction site. This one came from Norway. The best, cheapest one I could find came from Norway, and there aren't a ton of this variant from the ML, because it had to be the four-wheel drive version, because this part here, the bell housing, so it's just here, should fit perfectly up to the engine that I've got under here. Now this 722.6, I'll put up the entire number for those interested. This is not the one from like the AMG that can handle the outrageous amounts of torques, but from all of the internet whispering that I have heard, it can handle way more torque than Mercedes has specified. It'll be able to handle what I want to put through the TGB, because I'm not going to be doing standing burnouts, which, yeah, it's just, well, I might do some burnouts, but it's not going to be like a full-on, full-blown standing burnout. So this should be fine. This is the transfer case for the four-wheel drive. I have no use for this. So I will be using the original TGB transfer case. I may re-gear it depending on how I go, but so basically today I can try and work out how to drain this. I can pull that right off, and then I can work out how to clean this up and get it real nice. I would like to paint it, things like that. So yeah, a lot to do, but it's good to finally get eyes on this thing. Here it is here. Four-wheel drive, auto, Mercedes ML. So it's from the 270 CDI Mercedes ML. But this is exciting. Oh, and for those of you who have asked, my engine will be fully mechanical. This is electronic. I have a standalone electronic controller, which I will also have to figure out in time, and I will bring you in on that as I go. Last bolt. I'm nervous. I had to do them all with like an Allen key. So no fluid has been drained. I'm really hoping that the transfer case oil is separate from the automatic transmission fluid in the main housing. So we're about to find out. Otherwise, I'm in trouble. You ripper. Okay, so that's the transfer case off. So of course there's a bunch of gears in here for your 4MATIC 4-wheel drive. That I guess I'll try and sell. I don't know if those sought after at all, but I'll try and get some money back. Actually, I'll put on the screen how much this whole thing cost from that auction website. I can't remember off the top of my head, it was so long ago. I bought this from Australia, and yeah, it came from Norway, so we ended up having to pay duties on it, which was a shame to get it into Sweden, but I could not find any in Sweden that weren't a whole car, and I didn't want a whole car. Even though at times it would have been better, I just didn't want to have to deal with the entire vehicle. That is the torque converter which I've just removed. So it's got oil in it and a bunch of, I don't know, maybe discs. Anyway, that is the torque converter that I need for my conversion. And the reason I bought this from Norway is this had the torque converter still with it. A lot of the transmissions had no torque converter. Almost like they left it in the wrecked vehicle. And didn't realize that it's actually useful. So yeah, this one's good because it actually has the torque converter with us, and saves me having a hunt for another one. Okay, so there is the bottom of the oil pan. So you've just got these Torx bolts. What I'm going to do is find the right bit for me to be able to loosen it up. I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to put my oil drain underneath it and hopefully catch all or most of the oil that drains out. So what I'll do is I'll put some plastic sheet in here as well to be able to keep this nice and clean. It's not the perfect setup for pulling the bottom off. I think it'll do. All right, let's have a go. Ooh. Transmission fluid is not meant to be black. But Mercedes say this is a lifetime fluid, but you can never really trust what a car manufacturer says. As long as they get through warranty, they don't care. If your vehicle breaks down after it's out of the warranty period, it means you might buy a new Mercedes, right? So, I mean, all car manufacturers are like that. So yeah, lifetime fluid is never lifetime fluid. That'll just get you through the warranty. So this definitely needed a change, no matter what. You know how easy to do is the plug there. Let's put that down. Yeah. And that won't be anywhere near 8 litres yet. 8 litres will be in the unit. I'm going to have to remove the pan and all of that to get the real amount of fluid out. But I can let that drain for a while.
Alright, say bye bye to Dada. We're searching the transmission. Good luck.
Right.
So we had a little playpen for Oakley set up outside, which is really nice on the weekend when it's sunny to be able to do that. But I thought I was going to give a little bit of space to Chris, just so that he's doing something, I guess, that requires a lot of concentration and focus, so he can just research exactly what he needs without having Oakley making too much noise around. And I love going to the playground with Oakley. I actually try to go every single day to a different playground, being indoors or outdoors depending on the weather, because that's something that I feel a little bit guilty about with our lifestyle. It doesn't have his own bedroom, so he doesn't have his little space to play. The motorhome is a bit cramped, it's a bit dark, so yeah, it's not ideal, especially when it's bad weather. So now that spring is here, it's amazing because we can go outdoors a lot more, because if you would have seen a few videos ago, even when it was bad weather, like he hates clothing, he hates socks, so that was a nightmare to go outdoors with him in winter. So yeah, now that it's much warmer, it's like 20 degrees at the moment, which I think it's really good temperature for spring. Yeah, so that's good. We're gonna go to the playground, have a nice little play, and come back and make a delicious lunch. Playground, yay! Happy boy. Yeah! Off you go. Up. Yes. Good job. Right foot. Good job. Sitting. All right. 1, 2, 3. Yay! Turning around. No, you know we can do this. Good job. That's it. Down. Another thing I really love about the fact that we raise Oakley mostly outdoors in Australia is every time he comes at the playground, obviously he loves it. He likes to play and climb, but the thing he loves the most is actually just playing with dirt, sand, the leaves. I mean, I'm sure a lot of little boys and little girls are the same, but it makes me very happy because I know that it's gonna be easy with our travels. We can obviously stop at playgrounds, but wherever we are in the bush, in nature, it will always be curious and just go exploring. So that's a really nice thing to see. I love that. Oh, and we also put sand in the mouth, obviously. Ugly.
Good morning, it is Saturday. I have spent an hour or so getting the transmission spotlessly clean, so I used a combination of the oven cleaner and high pressure sprayer. So now I've got a few things to do, so I will need to find a 22mm deep socket, which I think is a 12-point socket, so I can remove that flange here. Then I need to come in here with some Torx bits to remove this, and then I'll also, once that oil has drained from here, I'll remove the coolant tubes as well. I think that's like a 19mm socket that I'll need there. And then I can pull off the bell housing and start to pull this whole thing apart. Ange has gone to the supermarket to get me some Vaseline because I'll use Vaseline as my lubricant for when I'm rebuilding through here. And then I've set up the transmission workshop. So this will be my nice clean surgeon's desk, or as good as I can get it. And I've got a bunch of seals in here, so it's a seal kit. I've got a new valve body and filter, things like that. And here's one of the clutch, the sprag bearings. And I might need a few other bits and pieces, but I won't really know until I open it up. So, oh yes, and I remember this is the valve body. That was the name that I had forgotten. So that's like a marvel of Mercedes engineering, so I'll show you through that. And I've got some bits and pieces for that, including a new solenoid, a shift solenoid that often fails. So, okay, I'll crack this open. There should still be a bunch of fluid in here. Of course, your ideal situation would be, you would have a vehicle on a hoist and this will be coming straight down. I'm going to have to kind of drain this sideways, but that's not the end of the world. It should be okay. All right, let's get cracking. That worked really well. Cool. I lost a bit into the bottom of the box, but that's why I put that plastic sheeting in there, so that's good. Okay, as that drains, I'm also going to start to remove these as well. Okay, so I got those oil cooler tubes out. It's been draining a ton of oil. It's surprising how much is in all of these galleries through here that's just dripping out gradually. So now I'm removing this little shift assembly here, this lever here, and then we've got all these Torx bolts here. So I'll remove the last two, I'll set the GoPro up, and then I think I can remove the valve body. And I've got the video, which can also sometimes help if I forget things. I'm also taking photos as we go because my memory is pretty average at the best of times. So I'm taking photos where something doesn't match the rest so that I know maybe I would forget the order and things like that. I just, when I put this thing back together, I do not want to be doing anything wrong. This is going to be a one shot, not like those bloody axles where I had to pull them apart 3 times. This is a one shot. I will get this. Okay. It's not coming free easily like I thought it would, so there must be something else here that I'm not seeing. Okay, I worked out what was wrong. I missed that bolt there. It was the only one that was in the middle of this. And I've also removed, where is it? This plug here, which enters into the valve body like so. And that had a little socket on the end of it and a screw. So those are common for the seals to fail and for fluid to gradually weep in and go all the way up the cable and into the computer system of the car and corrode it out, which is crazy. Just over time that fluid can actually just go up the electrical lines against gravity, but that is a common issue with these. So I've got a replacement in that white box there, so that won't be going back in, which is good. And yes, this is an incredibly precarious way to be doing this because this thing weighs quite a bit. I don't know how much. It feels like bloody 50 kilos. And it's just on 2 pieces of wood, just these 2. But beggars can't be choosers, right? You've got to do what I've got to do. And there we have it. The marvel of engineering. I'll put it down there for a sec because it's leaking oil everywhere. And I'll give you a better look in a sec. Messy job, I'm glad I've got the gloves on. Still a lot of oil in there, so it's a messy job, not gonna lie. Draining out some of the fluid now. Don't know if you would, but I don't see any metal shavings or anything like that, so that's very good, I guess. That's a start. So that is coming out of the breather. At the moment there's a breather on top that spins around, and that's where that oil is leaking from. So there's still a lot of oil in this thing. So I can show you guys. Okay, so there is the valve body. These are all oil galleries. And this houses, I believe, the shift solenoids. There we go. So those are the electronic shift solenoids here. One of these I'm replacing, I'm not too sure yet. Some people change, these are called a brown top, as you can see. Some people change those for, I think it's like a blue top in like the AMGs and stuff, and apparently they get like smoother shifting. But from all of the research I've done on it, because those are expensive to replace, I really don't think I would ever be able to tell the difference. This is not going to be a race car. So yeah, this is insane, this thing. Insane. So this whole plastic thing here I replace. And then I put the solenoids back in. You remove them from here, they're down the sprung steel. So you can see all of the galleries that have been drilled all through here, and you can open these up here and get access to these galleries as well. Now these are the galleries that go into the clutches, I believe. These are speed sensors. So that must mean, yeah, these are the speed sensors here. They're actually quite gunged up. Because they're so bunged up, my guess is that this is it's very good that I'm doing this. No matter what, if even this had been a really new transmission or like in spotless good condition, I still would have done this part of the rebuild. But I want to go even deeper and pull all of the clutches apart and make sure that all the bearings and stuff like that are absolutely fine. Because again, like I've said, I just don't know what life this transmission has had. So I'd rather do that now, learn a ton, and fail if I have to on the desk rather than fail out in the field, right? Okay, I think it's lunchtime. Lunch for the boys.
So Ox and Chris are having a pesto chicken zucchini pasta, and for me I'm gonna make something a bit different because I love this lunch. It's so easy, but I just felt like something a bit different and actually want to have a vegetarian lunch. So I made a meal prep for Chris, and I'm gonna make myself a quinoa salad. So I'll do that now and I'll show you the result.
This boy really likes zucchini. Right.
And he likes to eat on the lunch plate of his dad. Always better.
Zucchini. Oh, you spit it out on camera, huh? Okay, so while I wait for that 32mm 12-point socket, what I can do is work on the valve body. So this is called the conductor plate, and I have a replacement for this. So basically I need to remove these solenoids and make sure I don't get them mixed up. So I'll probably place them here all in order. I've got some brake cleaner so I can just clean everything up. And then kind of that'll be ready to go once I've rebuilt the rest of the transmission. Now I got all of my rebuild stuff from a company called Mack Trans. And I think they're Polish and Ukraine. I think they've got two different stores. I think most of my stuff came from Poland. So, yep, so the black big plastic thing you see is the electronic conductor plate. And then I've got one torque converter lockup solenoid. So this one here, that can apparently cause troubles, and the replacement is a genuine Mercedes one as well. And then I've got a bunch of bushings. I've got the gasket that goes between the bell housing and the rest of the transmission. So I've got that all ready. I've got a one-way clutch for the F1. I've got, yeah, a bunch of stuff really, and a full overhaul kit. The only issue with the overhaul kit that I can see is, you know, there'll be a package like that, and it just says valve body and other components. Like, where do I begin trying to work out where all those go? These are the others here. K1 clutch, that's easy. K3 clutch, easy. B2 and B3, and then the K2. Those, I think I can work out where they go, but so far I have no idea what that is. No idea what that is. And then you've just got something called a sealing ring kit. So it might be a bit tricky to work out where everything goes, but I'll do my best. And maybe worst case, maybe I can find a video on YouTube of a rebuild of one of these and then work out where they go. I did read you have to be really careful with the sizes because they can be a tiny different size, just a tiny bit of a different size, and that makes a really big difference. So what I'm going to do is pull this apart and just see. I can't see that many rings. coming out of this, but I'll give it a go. So I'm going to start pulling this apart and we'll have a look what we've got. Okay, so I've cleaned up that whole valve body, and this is the new conductor plate which I'll install here. And I've replaced these O-rings on the solenoids, and this is my replacement solenoid here. The old one is just there. Now, there are places you can open up. So there's here, there's this whole piece as well, which looks amazing once you're inside, but the risk of the contaminants, the risk of me changing a bunch of O-rings for no real reason is high, because there's springs in here. I don't know, I don't feel real comfortable about opening that part of it up. And from all of the research that I did when I was in Australia, I couldn't really find any particular reason to open that up, because from what I can tell, people don't have difficulties in that area. The problem area is this thing itself. So this is the common replacement part. But I thought I'd do the O-rings on those solenoids, seeing as I had them, and I don't want to be replacing those solenoids anytime soon. So I'm going to put it all back together, and then this technical part of the transmission rebuild will be complete. Spend some time looking up what the torque values of these are. Then I can put in that plastic box to keep it away from all of the dust once I put the covers back on. And then I've got the new filter that'll go underneath, so I can't put that filter on until this is back into the bottom of the transmission housing. And I've already put the gasket on the actual oil pan as well. So pretty much that part is complete. So that is an absolute engineering masterpiece. Like, could you imagine trying to work out for Mercedes where to begin making this? And then wait till you see inside this. That is pretty intense from the pictures I've seen. So as soon as that socket arrives, I can pull it apart. I did preemptively remove the majority of the bolts in the bell housing. One of them is for the clutch, this one behind the pump, and the others are for the bell housing itself. So I've just left one torque screw in there, and then there's one here and one here. And what I'll be able to do is basically place it on the bell housing on its end on this desk here, and then pull the housing off, and it will give me basically a big stack of all the clutches to start basically looking at, work out what their condition is like, and then only replace things as necessary, plus the 2 bearings that I've bought. And as far as I'm aware, there is one more bearing I need, which I'll have to order, but it's impossible to know which one was used in each transmission, as far as I'm aware, until I pull it out and have a look at it. So I didn't want to preemptively order the wrong one. So that will definitely slow the completion of that down. Once that's done, and I've got that all sorted, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, depending on order times and how difficult it is, I will then prime it and paint it with some sort of high temp spray paint. Maybe I'll see if Biltema's got it, otherwise I'll order that online as well. And I don't know if I'll do maybe like a titanium color or gold or something like that. And then it's time to start digging into that. I wanted to start with this transmission as a little bit of a warm-up because I knew the process of this would be much faster than with the engine, because I will, as I start to try and rebuild it, I will need to find a machine shop. If you know of a good machine shop, I emailed one of them, looked like one of the best ones, and they never got back to me, but I will need to find one. Basically, once I pull it apart, I'll know what needs to be done to it, and I can take it to the shop, talk with them, and then they can do whatever honing of the bores that is necessary and any skimming of the deck. And then I'll be able to order bearings, the main bearings for the engine. Hopefully the crankshaft is fine and that doesn't have to be machined at all. This engine in particular is an absolute battle axe. So there's usually, if it's been treated okay in its life, which I don't know, usually they are really rock solid and don't require much machining. So fingers crossed, because I have no idea what sort of cost that could incur for us. Okay. So that's pretty much me for this afternoon with the transmission. Again, I'll just look up those values and basically get that squared away. And just on a side note, in case anyone's wondering, no, I've never rebuilt anything in my life apart from starting with those axles. So I don't know what I'm doing, so please don't take my advice. Try not to give me too much of a hard time because I'm new to all of this. I'm only as good as the research I can kind of find on the internet and winging it basically, which is kind of my style. I'm a big believer and a proponent of stepping outside of your comfort zone as an adult and learning new skills that you wouldn't otherwise get to learn. So this opportunity has come up for me to work on some machinery that I would never have normally been able to work on, especially with Ange and Oakley's lifestyle. Living on the road's impossible for me to settle and do this sort of thing at the moment in my own garage, so I am really making the most of it. And Oakley inspires me. He's learning new skills each and every day. You can see his development, and I think to myself, like, what skills am I teaching myself? And usually it's bugger all. So at least this will give me an idea of how things work, and it keeps my hands busy and things like that. So yeah, hopefully that's a little bit of inspiration if you've ever considered doing something like this. I'm sure it's doable. At the very worst case, I've got to do it twice, or I stuff something up. You know, at the end of the day, it's just time and a little bit of money. I think it's really good to try these things. And please don't think that I'm trying to take away from the skills of machinists or mechanics or anything like that. This is just a DIY crack at something. There's no way I would do this stuff for a living for customers, because I just wouldn't be confident enough and I don't have the skills for that or the training.
Good morning.
Hey.
We've had a lot of messages on Instagram and even some comments on YouTube asking us what is the update with the registration with the vehicle. Did it go well? Like, is the saga over? Well,
so I got confused, and I did actually originally know this, but I got confused. Bjorn had told me this. That wasn't actually the inspection. That was just the registration process, which was basically handing over quite a lot of money. It was like 570 euro, was it?
Yes, much more expensive than we thought it was going to be.
And that they basically measured the truck. So they measured the truck, and they also basically like compare chassis numbers and engine numbers and stuff like that. So we've got license plates arriving in the mail. And now we have booked in for this coming Monday for the inspection, which is that's where they put it on a hoist and they go over everything. So, yeah,
this is the big one we need to get.
Yes, but at least we got a license plate, and then it's a bit stressful. Ange got pulled over by the cops coming back. I'll let you tell the story.
Wow, yeah. So we were driving back in the convoy. I was ahead of Chris. Chris was driving quite slow just to make sure we didn't have an issue with the fuel again. And I had my hazard lights on, and I saw the police in my revision mirror coming in between Chris and I. They completely disregarded Chris, they didn't care at all. And I got pulled over for the first time by the cops here in Sweden. They were not very friendly, But I mean, I didn't do anything illegal. They were just saying you're driving a little bit too slow for the highway. Try to get the smaller roads, just like the usual paperwork, got alcohol, breath tested. Obviously all good. So yeah, there was like an usual...
It was weird because, so I pulled up, once Ange got pulled over, I came off the highway too and pulled up behind. And they were really confused. And like a bit, I don't know, they looked really stressed out and they were like, you stay in the car or something like that.
I'm kind of not a criminal.
They couldn't work out that Ange was like my support car. So they didn't even talk to me or even ask about why it doesn't have any license plates. So that was kind of lucky because it's a real grey area with driving a vehicle with no license plate. So anyway, yeah, so lots of little kind of frustrating jobs being done at the moment that I'm not filming because they're technically kind of boring. I'm kind of at the stage where a lot of little things are going to add up into a good finished result. So doing a lot of like auxiliary kind of painting and cleaning and things like that. So I've cut in all the doors. At the moment I'm painting some of the seals that we're going to keep to refreshen those. I'm also clamping up all the brake lines. Oh, I welded the exhaust because I didn't realise on the inspection they'll actually check the exhaust mounts and one of them was broken off the chassis. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at the moment. I still can't tear the whole vehicle apart because of the inspection coming up.
So Monday, 13th of May, think of us and cross your fingers.
Yes.
We got it.
And on Wednesday we're driving to that military place that I've been to borrow the tools for the axle rebuild. So dropping those back off, and I might have found a TGB 20 radiator for a really good price. So that would be great if we can get that. And we're also seeing if he's got some leaf springs as well. I'll try to reply to the most liked comment or comments and actual videos from the previous week if I can, if we don't get too ahead in content, which we certainly aren't at the moment. So just as a response to the brake lines, so I've got 4 big clamps on each axle now, which has really cleaned it up. Now that was always the intention, but yeah, I completely forgot to do it before the inspection. I didn't realize that that was a thing. It makes total sense. So in a way it's lucky that wasn't the actual inspection. So I'll show you what I've done under where most of the comments came from. Bear with me. That was the main area. So I may have not explained it very well, but these lines here, which look like they're going all over the show, always look like that. They go up to the 2 boosters. There's no way of actually having those along like a chassis rail or anything like that. It's just the design of it. These are all clamped up now and they go to the valves. And then you've got the actual axle, which is clamp, 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 and no clamp there because it doesn't fit. So hopefully that answers any questions you have about how I'm going to secure the brake lines. They don't move at all, they're not leaking, very happy about it, but yeah, that makes total sense. If it was corrugations and stuff, those copper brake lines really have to be secured. So that's all done now, which is nice. Another thing as well is the seat belts that I mentioned, which I'll show you now. Securon was the brand, I couldn't remember off the top of my head. So these have that E rating, so they're legal in Europe. Now, remember how I said that big buckle piece down here, the drum, down here, was going to foul with the seat? So this is the style I've gone with. It still connects up down the bottom. And then I've actually got the drum at the top now, and then that gets secured on the seat belt here. So the only weird thing is it kind of sticks out a little bit. But they seem nice when I jumped in and used them. They're much, much better than the original Volvo ones. So hopefully the inspector realizes that they're a big upgrade. And then unfortunately, the company, I bought it from a company called Car Builder Solutions UK. They unfortunately sent me one of the wrong belts. So I couldn't actually do the driver's side. That should arrive this Wednesday. Let me just come around here. This is now a proper reel for this seat here and that seat over there. So they will secure a baby seat really nicely, because once they go past a certain point, they will not kind of retract or go any further, they lock. So way better than the lap belts that were there before. So once I get that new seat belt in, I'll install that. So that's one of the little bits and pieces I'm doing. So yeah, a lot is actually going on, but they're small. Like for instance, painted these up, I blasted those. They're looking much better. I'm basically trying to reduce the amount of work I'm going to have when it comes time to do the main paint job. One question for you guys, especially Swedes in the Malmo, Volynga area. I'm going to replace these acrylic panels. There's one on the rear and there's one on each side. I don't want to replace them with acrylic because I know they will just scratch really badly off-road immediately. I would like to put, I guess, tempered glass in. Please let me know if you know of a place that you can just get them cut to size and delivered, because I don't need to actually go into a place to have them installed. I'll do the installation myself. I'm struggling to, I guess, with translating things on the internet. When I type in, you know, a glazier or whatever, it often doesn't come up in English, so I can't really get a proper search going on. So if you know of anyone or anywhere that'll do it, please let me know. Thank you.
Where to?
Not sure. There's actually still a few dents.
I've got one.
There's a big one here.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Bit better?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a really big one on the next panel here.
Oh yeah. Oh. No, it's okay. Okay.
Now, finding that one could be tricky.
Right.
There's nothing on this side.
Alright, so we just finished doing a bit of panel beating. There was a few dents on the side of the TGB that Chris wanted to get removed, so that's all done.
That panel beating hammer did the job with that metal thing. So yeah, Ange on one side, me hitting it from the other, which isn't like your ideal panel beating situation, because in effect that's actually shrinking the metal, but it worked really well. It's soft, it's alley, so it got out some of the big ones. It'll never be perfect because it's so thin, but definitely better. So now we're going to, because that's done, we're going to put the Dynamat Extreme on. And the beauty of this stuff is you don't need to do like full coverage. We've been very thorough with everywhere else we've done, but you don't actually need to be on things like this with that resonance. A smaller piece of Dynamat will cut that noise right out. So that's good. So we're going to do all of those. And then a lot of the first stage of the sound deadening in here is going to be done.
Yay!
Good morning, happy Tuesday. So this morning I am laying down another Dynamat product called Dynaliner. So I've put this, well, I'm putting this in the doors. So that'll be the final layer for in the doors here. So that one's all finished. And in here on the wall so far as well. And in a bunch of other places too. So Dynaliner is a thermoacoustic closed cell foam, really lightweight. It's got like an adhesive backing on the rear, so it's really easy to stick on, and it doesn't absorb any moisture at all. So it's a really good product to use within doors and on the walls and things like that. So just going to continue laying that down this morning, and then we will be mostly complete for our sound and heat insulation, apart from just the cab there for when I remove the seats. A bit of thought comes into play when you've got a limited amount of the material, because I've cut all these to size, but this was actually an offcut from some of the bits in here, and often it's quite satisfying. You'll find that with a few offcuts you can actually get a really large surface area covered. So I've cut all these out. Now I just need to stick them on, and then whatever gaps remaining I can cut from that last strip, and that saves me opening up a whole new box and starting to cut it into pieces. So then I'll have one more door here, and then I'll have a good idea of how much product I have left, how much of this Dyna liner is left over for things like the firewall and potentially up into the roof as well. So I've had kind of a change of mind with the door cards. Rather than getting all new material, it's nice if we can reuse some material like we did with Bowser where it's kind of appropriate. So at least for now, I'm pretty happy with, I've painted a lot of the door cards up and remade a lot of door cards from the ones that we're not going to use, like the ones in the ceiling of the cab. Painted them black, and I think they look quite good because they're kind of the original aesthetic of the vehicle. And then I'm also, I don't know if you'll be able to see, got a door card in here, and I've made these ones to go here, which is a little bit different from the original. I've made a new door card here because that was really ugly in that door. And I managed to reuse this, which used to hold in the cab ceiling the med kit for the soldiers. It's got 2 layers of sound deadening behind, so yeah, I'm pretty happy with it at the moment. We can always change it later if we want to. That about wraps up this week, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We've got more on the transmission next week. That socket should arrive maybe today or tomorrow. I just went to the military place yesterday and got some surplus springs for the rear. So I'm going to work on those as well as a few other bits and pieces. And we have the inspection on Monday. So hopefully that'll be all okay. See you next week, and thank you so much for watching.